Rufus Cade sat in his flat and gazed lovingly at the money piled up in front of him. He had counted it twice and was considering counting it for a third time. Counting out 100,000 in used £20 notes is quite a task, but when the money is your own and wholly exempt from the ravenous clutches of taxmen and ex-wives, it is a pleasurable enough way to pass the time. Rufus chopped a line on the small amount of free space on his coffee table. Finally, things had taken a turn for the better. This evening was to be his last as a user. All those £20 notes were going to be put to good use. He would transform the business, settle down with a girl whose name didn't begin with J, and move to the country. Clean air, healthy exercise, and a good diet would transform him from the flabby, sweating, red-eyed pig he had got to know into someone he could truly love. He realized now, as he looked at the money, that throughout his wretched life he had never even so much as liked himself. He would start by thinking more of others. Wasn't that the road less travelled? The true path to self-love is to take baby steps towards others. To be able to go early into the office with a clear, sober head, that would be something in itself. There would be a special buzz to be got from sobriety, an irreducible high that would never lead to a terrible low. His cheerfulness and humour would become a byword. He had the weekend to begin the business of cleaning himself up. He would start any minute by throwing away his shot glasses and his silver straw. He might even drive round to see his parents. He played out the scene, his mother's pleasure at seeing him, a bunch of flowers under his arm and a teasing joke on his lips, sprang to life within him, and he smiled the broadest smile he had smiled for many years. He wasn't such a bad man. He had a dry humour and quiet companionability that had appealed enough to turn 3 women into wives and countless others into girlfriends. The entry phone buzzer sounded on the wall behind him, and his heart banged in his chest at such a violent intrusion of the rude world into his thoughts. He rose from the sofa and was surprised to hear his voice trembling as he picked up the receiver. "Who is it?" A voice he did not recognise spoke into the intercom with exaggerated intonation above the passing roar of traffic from the street. "I am a friend of John's. It's very important that I speak to you." Rufus turned and looked at the money heaped on his table. "It's not very convenient at the moment," he said. I'm expecting some people. I won't take more than 5 minutes. It's for your own security." "OK then, 2nd floor." Rufus pressed the buzzer and ran to the kitchen for a bin liner. He stuffed the money into the bag and threw it into the corner of the room behind an armchair. By the time a knock came on the door, sweat was running down his face and he was out of breath. He ran a sleeve across his dripping forehead and opened the flat door. A tall, powerfully built man of indeterminate age stood there, smiling apologetically, his eyes hidden by mirror shades. "I do apologise for calling so late." No, come in. I was just... The man came in and stood in the centre of the sitting room. Rufus stared at him in disbelief. "Wait a minute. Don't I know you?" The name's Cotter. Simon Cotter." Rufus was already dizzy with the exertion of hiding his money. The presence of such a man as Simon Cotter on his doormat confused him completely. He could only imagine that there had been some problem with his lookalikes the day of that launch in Islington. But why on earth would Cotter himself come to visit him at home, on a Friday night to boot? "I don't quite follow. You said you were a friend of John's." "That's right," said Cotter. "I've come to warn you." "Warn me?" "The Suleiman brothers are rather upset." Rufus blinked. "I'm sorry? Suleiman brothers? I don't believe I know anyone of that name." You sold them a consignment of cocaine for a great deal of money. Only a few ounces of it were genuine. The rest was sherbet, I'm afraid. They're not in the least bit happy. Sherbet retails in sweet shops for a pitifully low price, I believe. Pitifully low. They'll be wanting their money back. They may well want some pieces of your body to go with it. To be perfectly frank with you, they aren't very nice people." Rufus had trouble focusing. Sweat was stinging his eyes. "I haven't the faintest idea what you're talking about," he said, in a voice that he recognised as absurdly tremulous and far too high in register to carry conviction. "Really?" Cotter's eyebrows shot up. "Then I'm wasting your time as well as my own. I thought you might want to understand what was going on."